So this story just broke overnight, and it is massive. The Trump administration, the Pentagon, are ordering the removal of all transgender military servicemen and women, of which there are many, I believe, are officers. They put out statements saying that thousands of transgender men and women serve in the U.S. military and they're able to do their jobs. There are some exemptions that are being offered up in this new filing, saying that if the individual who is trans now adheres to their biological sex and for 36 months does not do anything that would show transition or gender dysphoria, they are allowed to stay. Of course, activists are losing their minds. There's already a lawsuit in place because Trump has tried to do this before. In the first Trump term, he actually tried making this move and was barred from doing so. But eventually the Supreme Court said, actually, you know what, he can do it. Before it ever went into full effect, Biden got in office and reversed this policy. Trump is wasting no time. And the Pentagon is making this move. I believe this may largely have to do with Pete Hegseth. This is massive, my friends. We have so many stories right now pertaining to the gutting of woke ideology and the dramatic cultural reformation in government and our institutions. But it didn't just start with government. It started with Bud Light. For a long time, we've been dealing with woke creep expanding through our institutions. In another story that we have for this show, Chris Rufo talked to the whistleblower at the NSA who says there's a transgender cult at the NSA. Well, based on those secret kink chats that were recently uncovered, these individuals may be about to lose their job or may already have. Now, why is this? Well, I suppose the question isn't so much why is this happening? We know why it's happening, but what is happening? We also have another story for you. A transgender individual was arrested with explosives for apparently trying to bomb a Tesla dealership. This is how crazy things are getting right now. Now, I don't know what's going on. You know, you got stories about transgender cults or whatever. I just want to say some people are crazy. The crazy people exist. They're violent, ideological extremists. They exist. And, you know, the one thing I just want to, I don't know how we navigate this one in a clean way. I really, really don't. Because you've got arguments being made about diagnosed mental disorders, mind-altering drugs, and whether or not you could be qualified to work in these industries, to serve in the military. There's real questions being asked by health professionals. Now that the HHS, the Trump administration, and basically our entire government says there are only two sexes, the question then becomes, how does the censorship industrial complex handle this? Now, right now, we're live streaming on Rumble and YouTube. This podcast will appear on all podcast platforms, and clearly they all have different rules. TikTok has banned this show as of the past couple of days. That's right. TikTok will not let us discuss these issues. TikTok is the most censorious platform, and Trump is wrong for supporting them. We try to do a show where we say, hey, there's serious questions about what it means of a diagnosed mental disorder. TikTok says you're banned. Facebook will also ban you, despite what Mark Zuckerberg says. Second most censorious platforms, Instagram and Facebook, all of Meta's properties. YouTube, actually not the worst, surprisingly, but still very bad. And then, of course, X and Rumble, the best. Rumble is the best. You know, Rumble's got people on there I really don't like, but they don't interfere with content production and opinions. The question becomes, as we're now dealing with an administration that is outright saying no to these ideas, medical experts on vaccinations, how will YouTube handle this? Because I got something to tell you, my friends. YouTube censorship policies pertaining to COVID, vaccination, gender dysphoria, etc., would now fly in the face of official government guidelines. So when YouTube says you've got to adhere to what the CDC and the WHO say, it's like, okay, well, the CDC under Trump says this. What's it going to be? Now, Jeff Bezos recently sent a memo to the Washington Post saying from now on, our editorial guidance is two ideas, personal liberty and free markets. We'll see if he actually means it. The woke lunatics who work at the Washington Post are foaming at the mouth, losing their minds. But we have challenging questions that need to be addressed. And I assure you, I don't think YouTube is ready to adhere. They still prop up liars, cheaters, and thieves, and people who push absolute lies about these issues. But I wonder. I really do. Now, we try to keep things academic and family friendly. And what I mean by academic is that, I'm not going to call someone a very aggressive insult. We try to keep it academic, as it were, in such I would refer to someone as cognitively impaired or developmentally disabled instead of calling them something more crass. YouTube tends to be okay with that. X really doesn't care, but X does have its boundaries. Facebook and TikTok will nuke you in 2 seconds. So the question for this story, what are the reasons for which a trans person cannot serve in the military based on the guidelines of the U.S. government and the perception of existing government medical infrastructure and guidance? Because I'm going to tell you, if I were to come out and tell you, and I'm going to, when I do, what the government of the United States as of now thinks of people suffering gender dysphoria, well, if I were to say what I'm going to say, if I would have said that 3 years ago, insta-ban. Well, I give you a warning. They take your video down. You can't say that. Okay, well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is head of HHS. The Trump administration has already issued their executive orders. So are you saying that we have to defy government guidance on these issues? I would not be surprised if that's the game they play. But I got to be honest. I also wouldn't be surprised if they kind of back off because nobody wants the IRS breathing down their neck. I don't know. As Trump is also dismantling a bunch of IRS offices, maybe they're not so worried about it. But the regulators still exist. So this one is going to get interesting, my friends. We're going to break down all of these stories. Before we do, make sure you head over to castbrew.com. Pick up some Focus with Mr. Bocus. It's a standard espresso blend that people were requesting, and Mr. Bocus passed. He was our little mascot. Mr. Bocus Pumpkin Spice Experience was meant to be a silly name, and we've discontinued it. There are still a few K-Cups and bags that remain for our Cast Brew Coffee Club members who are already signed up. But we launched the in memoriam Focus with Mr. Bocus, which was recommended by one of our members, and it's been selling really well. We also have Misty Mountains, which is a really cool bag, by the way. I love this. Costa Rican blend. Look at that one. And everyone's favorite Appalachian Nights. Ian's Graphene Dream will be back in stock in about a week. And don't forget to go to boonieshq.com. Now, I'm going to say this. Only the most based are allowed to buy the 28th Amendment skateboard. Because if you are not woke or red-pilled on chickens, then this skateboard is not for you. The 20th Amendment is my silly idea. That the right to keep, bear, and breed chickens shall not be infringed. It's drafted to look like old-timey constitutional amendment writing with a little doodle of a silly little rooster. And that's Roberto Jr. Rest in peace, too, Roberto Jr. But pick up the skateboard. Everybody who's got a chicken coop should absolutely have this hanging up and demand and defend your right to keep, bear, and breed chickens. And I mean this seriously. There are a lot of jurisdictions that are trying to ban chicken ownership, and I reject that. Recently, I think Arizona passed a law saying you cannot ban chickens. You're allowed to have them, even in urban areas. Based. And as always, timcastpremium.com. Join Rumble Premium. You not only get access to all of our behind-the-scenes, uncensored, and bonus content, you'll also get access to Dr. Disrespect, Mug Club, everything else. Basically, for $99 for a yearly membership, and if you use promo code TIM10, go to timcastpremium.com, you're going to get a massive library of content. It's really awesome. We've got so much stuff in the works. It's gonna rival the big players. Who needs Netflix or Disney Plus when you can watch feature-length documentaries, movies, TV shows on Rumble Premium? Let's go. But we're going to build it. We're going to build it from scratch. Let's jump to the news, my friends. Also, I got to do it. Join the Timcast Discord so you can help us make these shows, okay? Go to timcast.com, join the Discord. Let's get to the news. The Pentagon plans to kick out currently serving trans service members who don't meet specific requirements under its new policy, according to official guidance made public in a Wednesday court filing. Service members who have a current diagnosis or history of or exhibit symptoms consistent with gender dysphoria will be processed for separation from military service, says a memo outlining the policy, which was signed by the official performing the duties of the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness. The memo was included in a court filing as part of an ongoing lawsuit over the Pentagon's policy. I feel like there's no reason to ask the audience, but I will because I know the answer. If you agree with this policy, give me a 1. If you disagree, give me a 2 in the chat and or in the comment section if you're watching later. 1 like equals 1 more ban. Let's go. Usually you'll see people who somewhat do disagree. And I think there are some people who do disagree with this one as there are. This is the debate. There absolutely are trans people, those suffering from gender dysphoria, who are of sound mind enough to perform their duties. And the reason why I say enough is because it is a literally diagnosed mental disorder. Okay. That is not my opinion, nor is it meant to deride anyone. It's a fact. That being said, I think what we're seeing now is a general sentiment among majority of the country that if you are suffering from a mental disorder that alters your mind in any way, you should not be in positions of law enforcement, wielding weapons, or in the military, let alone flying planes. Recently, it's all ones in the chat. Recently, and smash the like button if you also agree. Recently, there was a story about these Delta airlines and wokeness and all-female flight crews and things like this. Well, some people pointed out that, I think it might have been Delta, I'm not sure, some of these airlines have promoted transgender flight crew. A question from this arises. An individual who is suffering from diagnosed gender dysphoria and is prescribed medication. These treatments are, and this is, again, I'm not giving you my opinion on this one. These are considered to be mind-altering drugs, prescribed for whatever reason, and that's fine if you think they should be. Many people think they should not be. The point is, doctors and the guidance they give is that these medications will alter your mind. Testosterone will make you more aggressive. It actually triggers euphoria as well. That's crazy. One of the things that doctors warn female patients is that upon taking testosterone, they will get bouts of euphoric feeling. It's really interesting. And of course, with estrogen, men who take estrogen will experience mood swings. I'm going to say it again for all you on the back. That's not my opinion. This is the statements on the effects of these drugs that are given when people are given cross-sex hormones. Now, do we allow people who are currently using mind-altering drugs to be in any position or any job? The answer is we don't. Of course not. But there are some tasks people do. There's a lot of jobs people do when they are on, say, antidepressants or some kind of mind-altering prescribed medication. They go on to say, the department only recognizes 2 sexes, male and female. The policy memo says an individual's sex is immutable, unchanging during a person's life. All service members will only serve in accordance with their sex. The policy guidance follows an executive order signed by President Donald Trump in January, directing the Pentagon to implement its own policies that say trans service members are incompatible with military service. It's unclear how many transgender individuals there serve in the military. In 2018, an independent research institute estimated there were 14,000 transgender troops serving. Wow, man. This is going to have an absolutely massive impact. Call it whatever you want, but the wave is not done. Trump, his cabinet meeting, did you see this? All these heavy hitters, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Trump, they're all sitting there talking. Changes are coming. It is like a steamroller ironing out the wrinkles of a giant fabric just in real time, flat and steamrolling. We'll go, let's read some more, but my friends, also don't forget to share this show. Take the URL right now, post it wherever you can. It's the most important thing you can do to help the show. If everybody who is watching right now copied the URL, shared it with their friends, joined the Discord, and just generally encourage people to watch, this would be the biggest show in the world. If you think it should be, then please consider sharing the show now. Let's read some more. The exception for applicants' removal from military service are if there is a compelling government interest that directly supports war-fighting capabilities, and if the individual is willing to adhere to all standards associated with the applicant's sex. That is to say, 99% transgender service members, you're gone. They're firing you. They're discharging you. However, if there is somebody who is transgender and is in a position that they need, then they're saying, drop the trans stuff, no more medication, adhere to your biological sex, and you can keep your position. That is, Trump is saying outright, They are willing to let you go, even if there's a compelling government interest. They would rather see you leave the military than have you serve while undergoing treatment for gender dysphoria. A service member will also be able to be retained if they demonstrate 36 consecutive months of stability in their sex with no clinically significant distress or impairment. If they can prove they have never attempted to transition to any sex other than their sex, and if they are willing to adhere to all applicable standards relating to their sex. That is to say, anybody who's done any kind of transition in any way, you're gone. Anybody who has talked to a doctor or been diagnosed, so long as they don't actually try to transition, they're going to be fine. The document detailing the Pentagon's new policy emerged in a court filing as part of a legal challenge to Trump's executive order. During recent hearings in the case, U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes said the executive order is arguably rampant with animus, signaling she could be inclined to rule in favor of several trans service members and 2 trans individuals hoping to join the military who brought the lawsuit last month. But Reyes, an appointee of Biden, agreed to hold off on deciding whether to indefinitely block the order until she saw the department's official guidance implementing it. More written legal arguments from both sides will be submitted in the coming days, and the judge is set to hold another hearing in the case later this month. A similar ban Trump issued in 2017 drew at least 4 lawsuits, arguing the prohibition represented an unconstitutional form of sex discrimination. Federal district courts across the nation temporarily blocked the ban from being implemented, but the Supreme Court eventually let the ban take effect in 2019 without ruling whether it was constitutional. Biden reversed Trump's policy in 2021. My friends, I do not believe it makes sense to say telling people that are suffering from a diagnosed DSM-5 mental disorder, okay, saying they are unfit for a certain job is not sex discrimination. If anything, it would violate the ADA. That is Americans with Disabilities Act. I am not trying to be mean. Trump and many people on the right, whatever, they're saying, if you are suffering from a diagnosed DSM-5 condition, you are unfit for service. Has nothing to do with sex. The fact the Supreme Court ruled that identity is linked to Title IX of the Civil Rights Act pertaining to sex discrimination is insane, okay? Absolutely insane. They said personal identity is the same thing. It's not. And that's when the Supreme Court goes rogue. The Pentagon's new policy is far stricter than the policy under the first Trump administration's ban, which allowed troops who had joined before the policy took effect to be grandfathered in and continued serving. The policy made public on Wednesday directed that service members being separated will be considered non-deployable until they are removed from service. It also says no funds from the Defense Department will be used for any surgical procedures relating to sex assignment surgery, genital reconstruction surgery as treatment for gender dysphoria, or newly initiated cross-sex hormone therapy. Air Force Master Sergeant Logan Ireland, who has served openly as trans for about a decade, resisted the DOD's argument that trans service members are not compatible to military standards or national security interests. Quote, thousands of transgender service members like me currently occupy critical roles, many requiring years of specialized training and expertise. Removing us would create significant operational gaps that could take over a decade to fill, undermining the readiness and effectiveness of the armed forces. Well, the argument from the Trump administration is that you are already undermining the effectiveness of the armed forces. So that's a moot point. And I get the argument, but quite literally, they're arguing the exact same thing. It's not an argument. It's moot. It's zero. The policy changes will also impact transgender recruits, including some who are separated from the military under Trump's first administration due to their identities. Among them is Riley Rhine, who was discharged from the Air National Guard under Trump's first administration. After Biden struck down the first ban, Ryan enlisted with the Army and had been scheduled to ship out for basic training in March. Going through it a second time is very hurtful, Ryan said earlier this month, after his basic training was put on hold following Trump's executive order. After receiving news of the Defense Department's policy on Wednesday, Ryan said he is both surprised and deeply disappointed. We have fought this before and we're ready to fight this again, Ryan said. That is to say, it appears Ryan is biologically female. And this matters, okay? I don't accept that how the media plays this stuff. Man and woman, as reported, needs to be factual on paper. You know, Ben Shapiro made this point. It's a good point. He said that in public, say Blair White is sitting at a table and someone asked where you're sitting, Ben would say, with her over there. Now, he knows Blair is male. Sorry, Blair, for always singling you out, but, you know, we're friends everybody's friends with you, so you're always the example of having friends on the right. But and Ben did say this. I think he was talking to Blair about it. That it's too confusing and complicated to explain to someone why that person who clearly looks female is actually male. However, on paper, he would say he, him, and his, and man, or otherwise. And that's because we're talking about facts. And you know what? He's completely correct. There's a reason why this matters. And it's this. Fox News and ABC, and this is a major story breaking this morning. ABC News writes, woman caught trying to plant explosive devices at Tesla dealership. Fox News says, woman arrested after explosives discovered at Tesla dealership. No, it was a man. If they want to put trans woman was arrested, that's fine too. But this is undiscernibly a biological male with facial hair who was trying to bomb a Tesla dealership. The reason we know these facts is because it matters. Okay, let's say the police put out an APB, be on the lookout, and they said a woman with long hair with purple highlights, people are going to be looking for a female. Okay, there's a reason why in the news we describe people and things as what they are to properly inform. Now, as for the trans military thing, we'll show you some of the comments from the left here over at the transgender subreddit, where they mention that they're going to be removing all these individuals. The top comment says, so it may not feel an upside just yet, but first, push to find each other facing the same situation. Find others who are being removed, plan together, consolidate, help fellow trans folk prepare and keep each other alive. Keep each other alive? Well, I mean, I hope everyone's getting the help they need. But this is actually one of the big main points of the argument. The constant, persistent threat of suicide from these individuals, I believe, is one of the principal reasons why the Trump administration is saying they are not fit for duty. It is, these people are consistently saying, we want certain provisions, we want certain things. Otherwise, they say that they will take their own lives. Now, that's not how you treat people who are depressed or threatening their own lives. We have something called a 5150 involuntary hold on individuals who are a threat to themselves or others. Anyone, in my opinion, and I mean it, who publicly announces they intend to harm themselves needs to be, like, I don't know how you handle it, but restrained for some time. And I straight up mean that. I'm saying, like, if you go out publicly and scream that you're going to harm yourself, we got to stop you. We don't want you to lose your life. Okay? We don't want you harming others, but more importantly, we don't want you harming yourself. But we see this consistently across the board, and it is the top comment. It is the top comment. They're threatening suicide once again. Okay? Well, I think the Trump administration is making this argument. And they're going to, I mean, people need to be 5150'd, okay? And I'm not being mean, okay? This is compassion. Anybody, for any reason, who is screaming they're going to harm themselves needs to be put in a situation where they cannot do that. Because the worst thing imaginable is that you've got a friend. I mean, I want you to imagine this. Someone sends you a message about threatening self-harm, and you say, oh, they're being dramatic, and you ignore it. And the next day, when you wake up, you hear from other people, from friends or the news or whatever it may be, that person took their life. And you know you could have said or done something. Okay, this is why we have 5150. And I'm not a big fan, to be completely honest. The idea that the government's going to involuntarily hold or detain somebody seems very unconstitutional, as it were. But then there's also extenuating circumstances. So in an instance where someone publicly states their intent, then yeah, I think we have a duty as good, moral, compassionate Americans, humans, to say, look, we're gonna make sure you can't, okay? Be that a padded room or a straitjacket, whatever it may be, you need to calm down. Because I'll tell you this, they interviewed people who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. Most people who do it don't make it. Of the people who did and survived, they said, what was the first thing that went through your mind when you jumped? 100% said they regretted jumping. And as they were falling, they realized all of their problems were solvable except having just jumped off this bridge. No joke. The moment the individual who was contemplating harming themselves came to the realization that they had done it, they regretted it instantly. And that's why we intervene. We cannot have a population of individuals threatening to harm themselves, and instead of helping them, affirm I mean, that is horrifying. Imagine if somebody was saying that they wanted to eat pennies. It's called pica, another DSM-5 diagnosis. And instead of saying, we're going to physically stop you from eating pennies, and I bring this up because this is an actual thing. There are people who eat coins. I'm not exaggerating. We physically stop them from doing it. Now, here's the crazy story from ABC News. I'm not going to say, I'm going to give you the facts. A male in Colorado has been arrested after police caught him with explosives at a Tesla dealership, though ABC is saying a woman and her. The 40-year-old suspect, Lucy Grace Nelson, was arrested on Monday after the Loveland Police Department launched an extensive investigation on January 29th following a series of vandalizations with incendiary devices at the Tesla dealership in Loveland, Colorado, according to a statement from the police released on Wednesday. On Monday evening, Nelson returned to Loveland Tesla while in possession of additional incendiary devices, along with materials attributed to vandalism. Detectives apprehended Nelson prior to further damage occurring. Nelson was immediately arrested and booked into the Larimer County Jail after being charged with explosives and incendiary devices use during a felony. During felony. Okay, there you go. Criminal mischief and criminal attempt to commit a Class 3 felony, authorities said. She was issued with a $100,000 cash surety bond following the charges. This is a male, by the way. The Loveland Police Department continues to work closely with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, Denver Field Division, with federal charges likely to follow. We got to stop, okay? Fox News, woman arrested? Is this a joke? Alexandra Koch? Come on. Did your editors make you title it this? For what reason is Fox News lying to people? I'm going to say it again. This is fake news. 100% fake news. On X right now. Let's pull this up. I've got this somewhere on my X. I want to pull this up. There's a community note on this one. Let me see what we have. Somebody posted this. I think I said something like, what is this one? Dismiss DEI. Lots of news. I said, ABC, you accidentally put the wrong picture. And someone replied, where's the, there was a community note. Here we are. Got a community note right here for you guys to look at. Let's see. So this is a community note that exists on X. It says, this person arrested was a biological male trans activist born as Justin Thomas Nelson, not a woman. The headline is inaccurate and misleading. So this is from Andy No. A radical Trantifa activist, as they call themselves, has been arrested in Loveland, Colorado for allegedly carrying out a series of violent attacks on Tesla property using incendiary devices. Lucy Grace Nelson, a man, has been incorrectly booked into the jail as a female by Larimer Sheriff. I can exclusive report his real name is Justin Thomas Nelson. Okay, we've got to address this. If you are using a pseudonym when you are arrested, in no circumstance do we publish your pseudonym. This is the weirdest thing imaginable. Why is an individual who was arrested, accused of trying to bomb a car dealership, commit an act of terror, being allowed to use a pseudonym? Nelson faces charges, this we read. In recent weeks, leftists have intensified calls urging domestic terror attacks on Tesla properties as revenge against Elon Musk and the president. This is crazy. The fact that Fox News did this and then, I don't understand, posted this photo knowing, I don't understand where we're at, right? I do believe that Donald Trump recently barred the AP because they wouldn't use Gulf of America. Well, I say this unto the Trump administration, to any of them who watch my morning show and who may hear me now. Do not allow ABC or Fox News into your private briefings until they agree to start reporting facts. I don't care if an individual wants to call themselves a woman or be trans or any of that stuff. If they're diagnosed and if they're being medicated, that's fine. We have the news to inform us of the facts. And the fact here is a man was trying to bomb buildings. That is important for the American people to know. If you would like to say it was a trans woman, that is also a fact. Trans woman arrested after explosives discovered at Tesla dealership. It is an absurdity that even Fox News would play this. Now, I have some people pushing back saying, no, Tim, we should not bar Fox News from the briefings because they're one of the only good ones. And I'm just like, no. No, we don't play that game. Trump told the AP, we're not going to we're not going to allow you in the Oval Office because you keep saying Gulf of Mexico. I mean, that is substantially less egregious. The fact that these news outlets would lie, and I'm going to say it again, would lie and post fake news protecting the identity of a person accused of terror is an absurdity. And Trump should be like, no, not happening. Absolutely not. And then they'll change it in 2 seconds. If Trump is arguing that these people are fake news, this is fake news. So I don't think we're going to see that change, to be completely honest, although I think we should. We have this story from the Post-Millennial. White House ejects Huffington Post, Reuters, foreign press from cabinet meeting. Carolyn Leavitt reaffirmed the administration's stance that it has the authority to select which outlets are allowed to cover the president in limited space events. You know, I'm going to send a text message to some of these people, and I'm going to say, you guys got to put the pressure on these organizations and stop allowing them to lie like this. Now, the news gets crazier, my friends. The news gets crazier. The stuff that we're seeing DEI-wise is, here's a story from Chris Rufo and City Journal. Let me take a sweet, delicious sip. I'm not trying to advertise Spindrift, but you can tell my voice getting a little raspy. I'm trying to talk for 27 hours straight. We don't drink sugary sodas. Although, to be fair, I keep talking about how healthy we try to be, but gosh dang it, I bought a bunch of Pop-Tarts. I'm sorry, dude. Pop-Tarts are amazing. They're so bad for you, though. I think I'm done with the Pop-Tarts. One more. We're filming a segment where we have Julia, one of the people who skates here. Their Pop-Tarts are illegal in Europe, so she's never had them. So forgive me, I digress. My friends, if you're just tuning in, check out castbrew.com, buy some coffee. Join Rumble Premium to watch our uncensored bonus content like the Green Room podcast. And share the show. If you're just tuning in, take the URL to the show, click the share button, post it wherever you can. If everybody watching right now shared this video, we would be the biggest show in the world. We would crush the corporate press and the mainstream media and all their lies. We try. I work quite a bit, but I can only do so much. I can come, stare at a camera, bring you the news and discuss it with you. Take your super chats, but I do need a little help. If you think the show is great, please consider sharing it now. Here's the story from City Journal. Whistleblower. There's a trans cult inside the NSA. An insider tells the story of the intel agency's ideological capture. This is huge. They say this week, City Journal broke the story of the NSA's secret sex chat room, which was filled with salacious discussions of... I can't read all of this stuff. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I was watching The Five the other day. Jesse Waters started reading some of these quotes, and he goes, I want to read more. My producer told me I'm not allowed. Can't do that. Some of the things they were discussing could kill you. This is what's so horrifying. I want to make sure this is clearly understood for everybody reading or who's watching right now, and we'll hear from Chris Rufo and this NSA whistleblower. You have people in the NSA suffering from debilitating mental disorders. I am not speaking of gender dysphoria or general whatever. I'm saying, while they call it a trans cult, understand there is a difference between an individual who is suffering gender dysphoria and seeks treatment for this, be it therapy or medication, and what these people were advocating for. A big difference. And you know, people on the left and the corporate press may try to conflate the two, but I draw that distinction. Because the things these people were talking about doing to their bodies could result in death. Death. And so when you get these books that they're putting in grade schools that discuss the consumption of human waste, I am not exaggerating. There's a book, I believe it was called This Book is Gay, which describes what and how children, they were giving it to children, could engage in these behaviors. This is self-harm that could result in death. And there is a big difference between a DSM-5 treatment and what these people were advocating for and writing about how they're gratified by it. Now, these people are in positions of power at the NSA. That should terrify you. Now that Tulsi Gabbard's in charge, it looks like these people may already be fired. But here's the story. Chris Rufo writes, and so this is a transcription of an interview. Tell me about this culture, how it's been spreading through the NSA, and talk to me about what it's like even a year ago or a few months ago before Trump entered the White House. The whistleblower responds. About 10 years ago, they started doing the employee resource groups, African-American, veterans, pride. It was just a meeting here and there, almost like a potluck, culture, food, speech. Then it started to get more and more. Instead of just one day a month, it was 1 week a month or the whole month. You could be hired as a mathematician, a staff officer, system engineer, but you would spend your time going to these events, having meetings all day about it. They got themselves into position to help craft policy and started pushing the idea that if you want to get promoted, you have to participate in these events. And then everything became pride. You would go to a training and it would be about privilege or how to be a better ally. A lady would give classes on how to talk gender neutral to people. You had analysts that didn't want to do the reporting they were supposed to be doing because they were going to have to report on somebody's dead name. They were having this crisis of conscience about reporting the adversary's actual name because they thought it was their dead name and they didn't want to disrespect the person. It was like a cult that was hell-bent on pushing gender ideology. Rufo says, it seems like this is a clique of very activist male to female transgender agents. Tell me about this community. The whistleblower responds, there's a very small number of them, but they wield an enormous amount of power. And outside of the sick stuff, you also see a prevalent Marxist philosophy going on with these people in their chat rooms. They hate capitalism. They hate Christians. They're always espousing socialist and Marxist beliefs. I know several people at the agency brought that up like, hey, we're here to fight for the USA and go after adversaries. And they just got hammered. They would just start coming out with transphobe and homophobe right away or calling you a racist. And that's why a lot of folks are still hesitant to say anything, because you still have people at these agencies in those key spots. It infected everything. Tulsi, I beseech thee, fire these people. Protect our country. Rufo then asks, and then what is the outcome? In your view, does such a focus on DEI and trans ideology degrade the actual intelligence activities of the agency? The whistleblower responds, it does, because you have people more focused on this ideology, and the folks that are into this don't put their effort into their work. I don't care if you're politically left or right. You can't have an unbiased mind if you're writing a report and you're constantly focused on how does this apply to gender ideology. Because when you do that, it's going to get people killed in the field. Rufo then asks, you're talking about trans ideology, cult-like behavior, and Marxist politics. That to me screams unstable. It screams counterintelligence risk. How do you use it? The whistleblower continues. Here we are. Oh, wait, I jumped too far. Talking about the community. And then you have, what's the outcome? How do you see it? The whistleblower responds, all of the above. The folks like that were quite unstable. I see it as a counterintelligence risk, but it's being normalized and it's being praised. There was a time in the last year when people were writing blog entries trying to one-up each other. Quote, I have a non-binary child. Oh, well, I have 2 trans children. It became a social thing, trying to one-up each other with how weird they are. And then they'd come up with new terms because they have to be unique. They want you to treat them normally. And at the same time, you better recognize they are unique and different from you. There's no winning. It's a lose-lose scenario. Rufo states, the Director of National Intelligence released a memo that will require all intelligence agencies to identify the trans fetishists and to terminate their employment and revoke their security clearances. How do you expect that to play out? And this is the last section. The whistleblower states, I wish I could see it playing out well with them following the orders and doing it. But after the last 4 years, I just don't know. They should be able to identify them easily because they all have those logs. If they can't, then they're just stonewalling. I hope this is the start of getting our intel agencies back to what they should be doing, which is focused on intel and supporting the warfighter. Just come in, do your job, leave that ish at the door. Chris Rufo, you are a gentleman and a scholar, And this man deserves some real rewards. You know, the Pulitzer Prize is supposed to go to journalists and writers, but it goes to garbage. Chris Rufo has done some of the best work in exposing a variety of issues over the past several years. So bravo, good sir. It is an honor and a privilege to have hosted you and to know you, because this is truly incredible stuff, truly groundbreaking journalism. This is what journalism is supposed to be. Can we stress that? It was people challenging the power structures. Think about the last time the corporate press actually blew the whistle or reported on something damaging to the military-industrial complex. One story that's been going viral is Jake Tapper's new book on how they covered up Biden's cognitive decline. So we've got a viral clip from, let me pull it up actually, because I retweeted it, and I wanted to save it for a segment, but I'd rather just give credit where credit is due from Savannah Hernandez and show it instead. And we have it here. This is Savannah Hernandez, who was confronting Jake Tapper on why CNN lied to the American people about Biden's cognitive decline. 1.2 million views already. Why? Because Tapper is working on a book right now about the cover-up that he participated in. So I hope the book, I hope is an admission of guilt. But this is not journalism. What these people have been doing has been fake the whole time. And so from Chris Rufo and Nick Swarter and Laura Loomer, we've been getting actual challenges to these institutions and power structures. Despite what anybody wants to say about these individuals and criticize them, they're always going to go after the faults or whatever of these individuals to try and discredit the reporting they do. But when they report and they expose it, that's what matters. Alex Jones, all the same. Like, we can joke and laugh about Alex Jones talking about interdimensional whatever, and then we have to acknowledge he put out that video right before a couple months before the invasion of Ukraine, saying it's going to happen, it's going to be in spring, Russia's going to do it. People are like, how did Alex Jones know? Well, you can disparage these people all you want, but when they're right, they're right. And this is I got to be honest. With what we're seeing now, with the actions of the Trump administration, the decentralization of media, I have never been more inspired that journalism is coming back. But what you got to watch out for, where things get really concerning, is the controlled opposition. There are many people that, when I can name them, I will, who are appearing, pretending to be good, honest journalists, challenging the machine, who are actually just components of it. You see, what you need to understand is that when it became obvious that they were going to lose, contingency plans emerged. Prominent individuals of the corporate machine all of a sudden had epiphanies and said, you know what? You're right. The left has gone crazy. I'm going to be a reporter for the good guys. Surprisingly, the reports often discredit stories that challenge the machine, and they try and play that game. An example I can give you is Jon Stewart. Not that he is one of these people who came out trying to run cover for the machine. There are journalists and media personalities that are very obvious machine components who all of a sudden are pretending now that they're on the right side of history, and they've realized woke is bad. But the example I give you with Jon Stewart is just the other day, or earlier this week, he was criticizing Doge, saying, I'm Doge curious. I want to gut the waste and abuse. But you're looking in the wrong spot. These corporations over here should lose their tax subsidies. That's the game. He's trying to go to regular people who like the idea of gutting waste, and then redirecting them in the wrong direction. We have that. They ain't giving up. There's a few other issues at play here. Over on the trans subreddit, they ask the question, is there a possibility of hormone replacement therapy being banned for adults in the U.S. federally? I'm going to answer that for you. Yes, 100%. The top comment is, at this point, you have to absolutely assume the answer is yes. It is possible they will do everything they can to remove HRT from trans adults. You must operate in the assumption that that the worst is possible, and then keep your head together and act with your local community to find solutions. We have there's another post If they found out, they will literally kill me. The individual says that they are a minor living not in the United States, and they're in a country where they could lose their life. And that is terrifying because we don't want that to happen to anybody. But the reason why I'm showing you these posts we have another story from Pink News, Trump administration to ban trans athletes entering the U.S. for competitions. There's a meme. It's a bit crude, but it gets to the point. It says there's a man out there who has proclivities aimed at toasters. I'm keeping the language light. And it's like in the 1990s, people would say, stop being a weirdo. And that was the end of it. Today, anybody who experiences any kind of cultural deviation, and I mean that in a light, I'm not disrespectful. I'm saying anybody who deviates from social norms will no longer face societal pressure. They will find an online community to encourage them. Even if the individual is in a country where they could lose their life, there's a forum where they will encourage the behavior, putting them at great risk. That's terrifying to me. Now, this is another big story. Trump administration to ban trans athletes entering the U.S. for competitions. And we have a post from the trans subreddit where an individual says, why must sports be the Achilles heel for trans women? All I want to do is compete in jiu-jitsu. Been training for almost a year. Got banned from my first competition when the coach told me to drop out day of competition, and I had to out myself to the people running the competition. They told me to compete in the men's division or compete. Do not. What I want to do is pull up and compete with women anyways till someone drags me out. What do? I've been in decision paralysis for months. PD, this is an entry-level competition for fun. No reason to have such exclusionary rules. One person, the top comment says, co-ed sports are not going to be a good environment right now. If you have the bandwidth and security to keep trying to compete in the sport, I would say the most effective way to do it was to connect with other female competitors and start training together. This is where we're at. These are male individuals who are publicly stating their intention to compete in sports with females. There has to be social cohesion. Look, I got no problem whatsoever if there is a co-ed league that launches and men and women can compete against each other. Let's break this down and ask this question. What's wrong with that? Honestly, what's wrong with that? Let's say that a bunch of women and trans people got together and said, we want to do a fighting league or a hockey league or a basketball league. And the teams can be either male or female. And then you can have trans women and women competing against each other. The reason why it doesn't happen is fairly obvious. The teams that win will just be males. Major league sports do not ban women from competing. Any woman can actually try out for any major team. Any major team could scout female players. They do not. There's a story that helps us understand why. First, to any sane, rational human being, we understand men, on average, are substantially larger with more muscle mass, bone density, and collagen than women, conferring greater physical abilities. Sorry, that's the reality. I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I say it all the time. But I don't even need to tell you that. But apparently these people need to be told. The reason why you never see women in any of these top-level sports is because they don't make it. There have been several attempts by women to join Major League Football teams as kickers, and they cannot make it. In fact, it's really funny. It's kind of brutal. There was a high school football team that brought on female players, and they started getting brutally defeated, and the guys started crying. And I'm just like, oh, geez. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know that, like, Myron Gaines and a bunch of these other dating podcast guys are like, men shouldn't cry in front of women. Men shouldn't cry. And I'm like, men are allowed to cry when they want to cry, and it matters. Okay? A guy who cries because he spilled milk, bro, chill out. Grow up. Come on. Men need to be cool and collected under pressure. And if your boss is mean to you, you start crying, yeah, okay, dude. That is untoward behavior. But if a man's son dies, that guy's going to cry. And I warn anyone, any man who thinks he's tough because he don't cry, to dare insult a father who just lost his son and is crying about it. That dad might end up in prison after what he does to you. So please, I mean that. And you know what I'm saying. Imagine a guy's at a funeral, his son's dead, and you walk up to him and said, hey, why are you crying? Don't cry. That guy's going to turn around and his eyes will turn to fire. Crying does not convey weakness. It is pain and rage in a man's heart, unless he's weeping over spilled milk. But these high school football players were crying because they just kept losing. The school apparently wanted to be progressive and said, let's bring on female players. And it didn't work. Maybe at the earlier grade school and middle school, it probably would be largely less noticeable. But here's the crazy thing. Grip strength and ability in prepubescent children is still easily discernible. Prenatal testosterone plays a huge role in everything. So these ideas they present, they're lying, and it's insane that we have entertained administrations and government agencies that have tried to obfuscate the science for political ideology. Enough. We can't function this way. I think Trump's doing the right thing. I absolutely do. I think this is the compassionate thing. I think it is the most, evil. So to see a person suffering from a mental disorder and to encourage them to revel in it. Imagine somebody's anorexic and they're gaunt, and you keep goading them on to just don't eat. And they're like, well, I haven't eaten anything for 3 days and my doctor says no. Imagine people online cheering them on, saying you can make it another day. And then they die. It's horrifying. We should be giving real sympathy and compassion to these people, and that means legitimate treatment, not affirmation. Somebody suffering from pica, a DSM-5 disorder where they're eating hair. This happens. And you're going to go to them and tell them to do more? That is evil. My friends, smash the like button if you haven't already. As always, share the show. Tell all your friends. We're going to be doing, we got some big marketing campaigns coming up. We're going to be doing nationwide billboards, outdoor ad campaigns. Let me just tell you the secret. These outdoor billboards have gotten so ridiculously cheap because people who sell products, like let's say there's a company that sells little fingerboards. Online direct sales, way faster, easier, and trackable. They can send the ad right to your phone. You click the button, you bought it. They can see you bought it. Bang, we're done. Billboards don't do nothing. But for shows like this one, outdoor billboards is cultural ubiquity, baby. So look, we've done this for a couple of years now. We had some in Times Square. We had Chicago. Where else did we have? I can't remember. I think we just did Chicago and New York, and we tried it out. Chicago was our biggest market now. And I'm like, I think these things work. And a bunch of these liberal podcasts got really angry. They started posting about it, and they're like, we're screwed. Because there's a billboard of me, and they're like, Tim Pool has billboards in downtown Chicago. We had one that's like 100 feet tall on the side of a building. Not that expensive. Way cheaper than online ads. So we're taking over meat space. Not that it really matters because Gen Z doesn't go outside, but, whatever. That's why people don't buy them anymore. But it is effective for millennials and such. So sharing is caring. Word of mouth is the most important thing. And, Dan Bongino gets it right because he calls on the Bongino Army. That's what he says. He says, the Bongino Army, you guys made all this possible. And that's really it, the mission of everything. Look, I know it's a slow news day when the Daily Mail just writes Megyn Kelly's opinions. And I do think she's incredible. I think she's fantastic. But we get it. There's nothing to write about. So let's just see what Megyn Kelly has to say. There's a reason why they care and other people care what you have to say. She's a celebrity. She's prominent and she's insightful and on the forefront. There are also other people who aren't necessarily as meritocratic, but who engage in drama bait. And so I'm like, man, I'm not as good at this as Bongino or Megyn Kelly. Let's just be honest. They're the superstars of this game. I think I do a good job. I think you guys like the show. I appreciate it. But I'm also not a drama queen who's going to try and start fights for attention like some of these other big podcasts do, even on the right, trying to attack me to get a beef going. I'm just like, why are you yelling at me? But I do know, because I know PR. Every day they're like, hey, getting into a feud could generate a lot of buzz. You'll get more subscribers. And I'm like, ugh. Man, the things you have to do, the things people do, with all due respect, even those on the top, they get into their beefs. They get in their beefs. But I think Dan Bongino hits the nail on the head with the hammer. He built a community up where he largely just cheered them on to help support his show and spread the word. And it made him the biggest live show in the world. Amazing. And then he decided to give it all up to be a civil servant. Man, there's very few people that I'm inspired by. Very, very few. And Dan's always been great. But when I heard that he was stepping away from everything he built because he was going to be a civil servant under Trump, I was like, man, that is the honor and nobility that I believed in and I looked for when I was a kid and I was growing up in this country. The things that I saw, firefighters, the first responders, the people that would give up everything for you and a better future. Shout out to Dan, man. I'm a huge fan. Let's grab some of your super chats and Rumble rants, my friends. Kyle N says the Doge administrator has been revealed. Ian will be happy. Very interesting. King Henry says apparently George Soros is getting his hands on Wisconsin Supreme Court. His kid is in foundations. Last responder says, random question. Can we get 20th Amendment tin tacker signs and or stickers? I want to gift them out to new chicken owners that I know. I also want it for my coop. Also, congrats to you and your family. Thank you. It's all chicken owners that are buying the 20th Amendment skateboard. A lot of the boards we sell, and this is true for most skateboards, they're art pieces. This is the secret of the skateboard industry that's been true forever, since the 80s. Skateboards for most people are cultural art pieces representing anti-establishment values, urban culture with art on it. And that's why for Boonies HQ, we have a bunch of different boards with varying messages. So obviously, the 20th Amendment is mine. It represents my views and like my message. The first board we made was just a rooster. Look at that. I've got two boards and they're both roosters. I'm a big chicken fan. They're great. And then, of course, Special Mike is a gorilla with a crown holding a heart. It really does represent Mike very well. But, of course, Sam's board, the Right to Arm Bears. That's a really great graphic, by the way. It's our second best seller. It's all about just, don't forget, step on Sneck and find out. Our number one best-selling board. Very simple. And we also have stickers of this one. So, yes, 20th Amendment, we're going to make T-shirts and stickers because it's the art pieces that really do the heavy lifting. But we do have a fair amount of people who ride the boards, of course. Skateboards are skateboards. Let's grab some Rumble rants. Let's see what we got going over here on the Rumble side. What you guys got going on? Actually, it doesn't look like we actually have any. Do we have no Rumble rants? Guys, oh, here we go. I see one. Angry Marsupial says, girls can hang in hockey basically through junior high. Checking is illegal until high school. Between that rule and puberty, girls are no longer competitive. Elite top 1% teen girl hockey players are about as equal average teen boys. I think that's an overstatement. I really do. Even in the earliest ages, boys and girls are not on equal footing. They really are not. Skateboarding is really, in my opinion, one of the easiest ways to understand this. It was a 12-year-old boy. I think a 12-year-old boy did the first 1080 spin on a skateboard, meaning 3 full rotations. No female has since done this. It took 25 years from the first 720 2 rotations for a female to complete one. And the question then is, if a 12-year-old boy, and it's several instances, it's 10 or 12-year-olds completing these like major firsts. Where are the 10-year-old girls? I mean, they're all prepubescent. Non-existent. In fact, when we see these prepubescent girls skate, they typically struggle at the higher level of skateboarding and they get more injuries even before puberty. That prenatal testosterone plays a huge role, and I think people need to acknowledge that. Mike the Wup says, I wasn't even allowed in the military because when I was a kid, I was on certain prescriptions and hadn't taken it in a long time, but they let in people that think they're trapped in the wrong body. The Truth A says, CA Assemblyman Zieber is trying to ban the Castle Doctrine and make California a duty-to-retreat state. He also slandered Rittenhouse. Kyle needs to sue. Führer Newscom also refuses to fund and support Prop 36 crime bill. Well, Newsom announced a new podcast. Apparently he already had one, but he's announced a new one. And we're going to book him. We're going to try and get Gavin Newsom to come and sit down. He won't do it. None of these people will. Look, with all due respect to Marianne Williamson, I like her, but she kept dodging coming on the show. When she finally did, the things that were displayed to her, she had no answer for. The disgusting books nearly left her in tears. When we talked about the book bans in schools and its pornography, and we showed her the racist and kink content they were giving to kids, she was nearly crying. And after the show, as she was leaving, she effectively told us that She said something like, this is why, she's like, I can't go on shows like this, and this is why Democrats don't come on shows, because you're asking questions and bringing up issues that we can't talk about, blah, blah, blah. The gist of the conversation being, Democrats can't handle the heat. They lie, they cheat, and they steal. And I am not a lifelong Republican, nor was Dave Rubin, nor was Cenk Uygur, who they're now calling right-wing, nor was RFK or Tulsi Gabbard, or even Donald Trump. And not once have these people stopped to reflect and ask themselves why it is that so many Democrats quit and lined up with Trump. It's because I don't care about political parties. I care that you have become a crackpot cult that lies about everything. I like the libertarians too. I get along with libertarians great, and we argue all the time. So how is it the libertarians and the Republicans are like, yeah, okay, Trump pardoned Ross Ulbricht. So great. He's like, I don't know much about him, but I promised I'd do it, so I did. I love this man. The libertarians are so happy. They got something. It's incredible. But Democrats just lie every day. Just lie. Don't get me wrong, Republicans lie too. But the coalition we have largely is not. So they can cry about it, man. My friends, smash that like button on the way out. Don't forget to always leave your comments, leave your thoughts, start that conversation. We want to build community, so get active. If you're on Rumble, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, Apple, whatever it is, leave reviews, leave comments, engage, my friends, be involved. Take that step, set a routine of being active in the space. And join the Timcast army. Yeah. No, I don't got what Dan's got. But you can support the show. Share it. I'm a bit too, I don't know. People call me arrogant on stuff all the time. And I'm like, I don't think I'm arrogant enough. I mean, I am, but like, I don't think I'm egotistical enough to call out my audience to go and like be an army or do anything like that. I don't know. Maybe I need to. Whatever. We do have the Discord server. I largely want you guys to empower yourselves. So smash the like button. Thanks for hanging out. We got more segments coming up. We'll see y'all then.